Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Menopause Matters Live. And before we get started, I just want to make sure that you are aware of my masterclass, which is happening next week, next Wednesday, the 17th of July at 7:30 p.m. BST on Zoom. If you aren't aware what it's about, it's called Fix Fatigue Fast, your roadmap to unlimited energy and maximum motivation. And I'm going to be, excuse me, digging into the 4 pillars of menopause health that are really, really important, crucial if you want to get your energy back, get your motivation back, and feel like yourself again. I'm going to be talking about some of what I'm talking about today, but in more detail. But what I share is very different to what others are sharing in the menopause space. So if you haven't been to that masterclass, I really do recommend you come along and have a listen, because you will definitely learn some new things. So on to today's talk. So today we're talking about something that lots of people, not just women, but lots of people in general complain about. And it's that mid-afternoon slump. And it's something that lots of people struggle with, and lots of people don't really know much about it, don't really know what causes it. And because you don't know what causes it, don't really know what to do about it. The other thing to bear in mind is that whilst it may seem quite harmless, it's actually not harmless, because it's all about metabolic function. And it is, part of the path towards heading towards, or can be, pre-diabetes and diabetes. So it's linked very much to our blood sugar. And it's not something that is just, we should be ignoring. We should be doing something about it if it happens to us. So I'm going to talk about what causes it. I'm going to share some tips to help avoid it and improve it. So first of all, what is it? So, well, symptom-wise, what you're going to feel very tired, difficulty concentrating, perhaps, a loss of alertness, loss of energy. Some people get very sleepy, can't stay awake to the extreme sometimes, where kind of they're actually fighting with themselves to keep their eyes open. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So back when I was, way before I was doing what I do now, I used to work in marketing, and I worked in London at a few different companies. And I very often, pretty much most days, would get a really bad afternoon slump after lunch, usually around about 2:30, 3 o'clock, where I would be absolutely wanting to fall asleep at my desk. And sometimes I did. It was a bit of a joke in the office, that I would just have to have a 5-minute nap, because I could not keep my eyes open. I would be fighting with myself. And I, at the time, had absolutely no idea what was causing it. It didn't occur to me that it could possibly be something that I was doing. But when I retrained to do what I do, and I realized that it was all to do with my blood sugar dysregulation, I made massive changes. And now obviously that doesn't happen. But I get it. Lots of women who work with me have the same problem. And it is a very it is problematic, because it, as I say, it can lead to eventually pre-diabetes and diabetes. And don't forget, when we hit our perimenopause and menopause years, we are much more predisposed to blood sugar dysregulation, diabetes, and insulin resistance, and they all play hand in hand. So what happens when your body breaks down carbohydrates is that they are broken down into glucose. The smallest molecule is glucose, and this then enters the bloodstream. And what happens then is that we release insulin from the pancreas, and it's insulin's it's insulin's job to take glucose out of the blood and into the cells where it can be used. But when we are eating too much of the wrong types of foods that have too much glucose in them, or perhaps they're not, they're refined carbohydrates, so they don't take long to break down into glucose, It can really cause too much insulin to be released at one go, and then our blood sugar crashes. And that's pretty much what that afternoon slump is. It's your blood sugar crashing. Now, the level to which it crashes depends on the individual. It depends on lots of different things. But when it crashes low, we feel tired, we feel sluggish. Sometimes we feel really sleepy to the point where we can't keep our eyes open. That is what it is. And the main cause is, as I said, high sugar foods, refined carbohydrates that don't take long to break down into glucose in the blood. Irregular eating patterns as well are a big problem. So if we are perhaps not having our meals at the right sort of intervals apart, perhaps you're not having breakfast and you're kind of fasting for too long, and then you're craving carbohydrates, so you're having a load of carbs, and then that can lead to a blood sugar crash. Skipping meals in general is not good. Coffee is another one. So caffeine can really affect our blood glucose. Other contributory factors, lack of regular exercise, lack of good quality sleep, and stress is another one, big one. Stress has a big role to play in our blood sugar because cortisol and insulin have a very tight relationship with each other. Too much to go into now, but stress is a big one. So if you've got all these things going on, you're stressed, you're not sleeping properly, you're not exercising regularly, you are, reaching for the wrong foods to try and power yourself through, you're drinking your coffee to try and keep yourself awake. All of that is going to be playing into this and making it worse. And then finally, something that most people don't talk about, most practitioners don't talk about because they don't understand it or don't know it, is about the mineral side of things. So you've got two minerals two key minerals which dictate your blood sugar control, your ability to control your blood sugar, and that's calcium and magnesium. And they have a relationship with each other. In fact, the test that I run, there is a ratio between those two. We call it the blood sugar ratio. And when that ratio is very high, which probably 80 plus, maybe 90% of my clients have a high ratio, it means that they are prone to blood sugar crashes. So as well as their health questionnaire, when I work with somebody, I ask them to complete a health questionnaire. There's lots of sections in it, and one of them is about blood sugar. So it's a list of symptoms, and I ask them for the questions about it. I also am looking at their mineral test, and I'm looking at that blood sugar ratio. And if that is out, and it's very high or very low, but very high means propensity to blood sugar crashes, then I know that even if they are going to be doing all the right things with their diet and the other things I've talked about, they're still going to have a real struggle for their body to be able to control their blood sugar because of calcium's and magnesium's relationship with insulin and the release of insulin. So all of those things to bear in mind when you are thinking about your blood sugar, and if you do have these afternoon crashes. Another key sign of blood sugar dysregulation is waking up multiple times in the night. Now, is that the only reason that we wake up at night? No, absolutely not. It can be lots of other things, but it is a big one. And that's why I always get everybody to start with their blood sugar. In fact, it is the second module in the program of the educational content side of things, because we have to get that right first. There's no point in doing the rest if we don't get the blood sugar stable. And that's why it's one of my 4 pillars of menopause health. And it's why it's a big chunk of the topic that I talk about in my masterclass. So what can you do to help balance your blood sugar? Well, first of all, you need to eat a balanced diet, of course. Lots of protein and lots of healthy fats, as well as complex carbohydrates. I am not one for cutting out carbohydrates. I don't think it's a good idea for most women over 40. There's lots of reasons why we do need carbohydrates, but it's got to be the right amount, the right type. And, those two things are really key. You can't just eat as many carbohydrates as you like, and you can't just eat any types that you like as much as you like. You've got to know what they do to your body, which is why I use a structure called the GL. It's the GL approach, basically, to carbohydrates. Cutting out sugar is really important, or cutting it right down. Watching your alcohol intake, very important, because alcohol can affect blood sugar, or does affect blood sugar, and differently for different people. For example, with me, it doesn't spike my blood sugar at all. It literally just crashes it. So if I have any alcohol, which I don't really drink anymore, but if I did, I need to have some sugar, some sweet stuff alongside, to keep my blood sugar up, because it literally crashes it. But some people, it spikes it, and we don't know unless we actually monitor that. You've got to watch your caffeine intake. When you're looking at foods, whole foods, fruits, veg, lean proteins, and whole grains. No white bread, no white pasta, no white anything. Eat at regular intervals, avoid skipping meals, especially don't skip breakfast. I know there's a big thing about intermittent fasting. I'm not anti, it's actually time restricted fasting if it's overnight fasting. I'm not anti it, but I am not keen on women doing it who are going through perimenopause, struggling with loads of symptoms, a lot of stress on them, and then adding an extra stressor to the body, which is what extended fasting is. 12 hours is ideal because that gives our body enough time to regenerate, but you don't want to be doing kind of 16, 18-hour fasts if you are struggling with symptoms of perimenopause. Men do much better with fasting than women, and younger women can do it. But, when we hit our perimenopause years, I don't recommend really extended fasts. Lots of women that I work with have tried it, and it's actually made things worse. Eating at regular intervals, as I said, avoiding grains and sweet breakfast. So think about your breakfast. We're told to eat porridge because porridge is a low GL food. I used to tell people to eat porridge until I got a continuous blood glucose monitor, and I started using it on myself, and I saw how much my blood glucose spiked. And then I started looking into it and realized that actually I wasn't alone, and the majority of people do really react to oats. So I don't recommend oats for breakfast, even overnight oats. Sometimes, occasionally, it's okay. You've got to load in the protein, load in the nuts, load in the collagen powder, things like that. But no, I don't recommend it on the whole. It's got to be savory breakfast. Your breakfast shouldn't be sweet. Avoid snacking, but if you do want to snack or need to snack, make sure it's high protein, high fat foods. Don't be, snacking on, these bars, protein bars and things from the health food store, because they are actually full of sugar. They may say they're not full of sugar, but they'll have dried fruit in, dates and things like that. That's going to have exactly the same effect on your blood sugar. Get your minerals tested to see what the minerals are actually doing. Look, I talk about minerals all the time because it is absolutely changed my life and changed the life of my clients. And I can't understand why it's not used more broadly. So testing your minerals really important. Otherwise, you could be doing everything right and still not be able to get a hold of your blood sugar. Stay hydrated. Drinking lots of water, making sure that you are drinking good quality filtered mineral rich water, and regular exercise, short walks after meals, especially if you've had a carb heavy meal. So say you have your Sunday roast, you've had your potatoes and your cooked carrots and swede, etc., and you're getting you're going to get that slump. Why do you think that we fall asleep after a Sunday roast? It's because the amount of carbohydrate in that meal. That's why everybody kind of crashes on the sofa after their Sunday roast or Christmas dinner. One of the things you can do to counteract that is to go for a walk. 10 minutes is all you need. Brisk walk, 10 minutes can really make a massive difference. And then finally, another tip that I tell my clients to do is the order in which you eat your food. Eat your veg first, then protein, then your carbohydrates. So always the veg first, then eat your protein. Obviously, if it's a meal that's everything's mixed in together, you can't do that. But if you're having, I don't know, a piece of chicken or something like that with veg and some potatoes on the side, the order is eat the veg, eat the chicken, and then eat the potatoes. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gives some insight and maybe some aha moments to some of you who had no idea that this is what was causing that afternoon slump. I see it a lot. I see it with a lot of my clients. And yeah, I hope that was helpful. If you want to know more about this topic, but also the wider approach that I use to help women to regain their energy and fix fatigue fast, which is the name of my masterclass. Just to remind you, it's next Wednesday. It is at 7:30 p.m. British Summer Time, and it's on Zoom. If you haven't already registered and you would like to, you can just drop a comment where you're watching this with the word masterclass, and we will get you the link to get yourself registered for that. And I will go into lots more detail about that and many, many other things related to fatigue and loss of motivation and loss of mojo, brain fog, etc. during the menopause years. So that's perimenopause right the way through to post-menopause. If you've got any questions, also, please do pop them in the comments. Very happy to answer them. And if you want to, you can drop me an email. The email is support@vevital.com. That's at VEEVITAL.com. All right. Have a great day. I will see you next week for Menopause Matters Live. All right. Take care. Bye for now.